Yo, what's going down, Green Screen Entertainment fans? Your homie Jay Green back with yet another review, and right now I'm about to give you my thoughts on the brand new Halloween Ends.
It's not good, okay? It's not good.
Now, this movie stars Jamie Lee Curtis, Rohan Campbell, and Andy Matichuk, and it was directed by David Gordon Green. Now, for all of y'all out there who have no idea what this movie is all about, it's all good because it's a slasher film. You don't really need to know much about it. But I will tell you like this. This movie, Halloween Ends, picks up a few years after the ending of Halloween Kills, which of course took place the same exact night of the original Halloween reboot that came out back in 2019. In this film, we basically are missing Mike Myers. He's somewhere, nowhere to be found. Laurie has pretty much started writing a book about all these events that jumped off in Hatton. Her granddaughter is living with her now. She's kind of over this whole situation, even though Mike Myers is still basically at large, and the entire town feels a type of way. They feel negative towards Laurie, as if all this mayhem that has jumped off is her fault, and she's kind of dealing with it on undercover. Now, I'm gonna let y'all know like this off the top. I'm gonna be spoiling the hell out of this movie. Now, if you don't want anything to be spoiled, you're trying to be as fresh as possible because you really want to see this, cut me off right quick, go see that movie, come back, check out my thoughts, and it's gonna be Gucci. You feel me? With that said, this movie opens up with Corey, played by Rohan Campbell. He's babysitting this little kid. He's a knucklehead. This kid locks him in the room. Corey's trying to get out, and when he kicks that door open, this kid falls down, breaks his neck, smashes his head wide open. Oh shit, tragedy. Everyone is calling this kid a murderer. They think he's crazy, all of that shit. We cut to a few years later, and he's basically a loner with some random job at a junkyard. He gets bullied by some band kids. We'll touch base on that in a minute. So he's getting bullied by these band kids. He ends up cutting his hand on a glass, and then Laurie happens to be at the gas station when this is all jumping off. She feels sorry for him. She takes him to the hospital and gets him treated by her granddaughter, who happens to be a physician's assistant or some shit like this. And as luck would have it, they fall in love rather quickly. So now that they're sharing googly eyes and sweet nothings in each other's ear, she ends up inviting him to a Halloween party. But when he goes, there's the lady of the son that he quote unquote killed back in the day at the party, chilling, hanging out, sees him at the bar, starts giving him shit. He ends up walking off to go home on his own. And when he's walking home on his own, those band bullies pull up, they get into a little tussle with him and end up throwing his ass off a damn bridge. He ends up in a ditch, somehow survives this shit. And while he's unconscious, guess who pulls his ass into the sewers like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles when they swooped up April O'Neil? Michael Myers. So now, with a classic horror movie trope, the next morning gets here. He wakes up baffled about how he ended up in the damn sewer. So when he's walking outside doing that walk of shame, Mike Myers grabs his ass from a sewer drain pipe. Bah! Grabs him by the throat. He's about to kill him. Crackle, crackle. You can hear his neck starting to pop. And then he looks in his eyes. And for some odd reason, as he looks in his eyes, Mike Myers all of a sudden sees everything that this kid has been through, and they develop some type of kinship. So now that Michael Myers and this kid have like a real connection, they end up becoming bosom buddies. This kid actually brings people to his lair for him to kill. Then he asks Michael Myers to teach him how to kill. Then they actually go out on a field trip to kill together. The shit is crazy. Now, this is also where the movie starts to become interesting. Do they really build and develop everything that comes after that? Fuck no. Alright, now before I go any further and break down what did or didn't work for me, what I think they developed well or didn't develop enough and flesh out enough, I want to break down a couple of positives. One, I think that the acting was great from everybody, especially considering what they were given to do.
Nothing.
Two, I think this movie looks great. It definitely follows the same look and feel of the previous installments in this trilogy, so they win there. Now, with all that said and those positives out of the way, let's break down what the fuck was wrong with this movie. So first thing out the gate, the biggest thing that for me did not work for this film, may work for you, but it did not work for me, was that I feel like this movie, and from what I understand about the second film, because I didn't actually watch that one, I was about to, but then I heard it was terrible. I saw enough things about it that said, yeah, this is not for me either. was in the second installment and this one, I feel like it's trying to be an A24 film. Now, what I mean by that is this. A24 films are very outlandish at times. They're also very thought-provoking and deep that you might miss a whole lot of stuff, but you know that something is there. And usually in an A24 type film or Blumhouse type films, there's going to be a deeper thought or a deeper meaning or perspective, but it's usually developed very, very well. You might not agree with it. You can see it in the characters. It might be hard to address and deal with, but it is there and it is developed and it is fleshed out. In this film, they're trying to put out, like in the second installment, the mob mentality. Maybe the mob is more deadly than the killer himself. That type of thing. They're doing a lot of stuff in the town trying to track this guy down in the second installment of this trilogy. In this film right here, the entire town is so angry with Laurie as if it's her fault. Like all of this stuff is literally her fault. Like she created this person. And I'm like, the fuck? That's kind of out of nowhere for the entire town to think like that. Also, there's characters in this movie that I feel are trying to continue along that thought process of hate or anger or bullying will breed this type of insanity plaguing the community. And I just feel like those thoughts and those themes were not really developed, nor were they fleshed out enough to take up the bulk of the film. And to piggyback off of that, like I said, being an A24 film or a Blumhouse type film, trying to be that is not bad. But remember, those types of films, you have some kind of weird, interesting build up to the end, and it's leaving you thinking about it after you've seen that film. They're kind of going for that. That's their thing. Whereas this is a slasher film. This is Michael Myers. All right, this motherfucker comes out one time a year, bag snatches kids, and then kills babysitters. That's what he does. I don't want to see your little think pieces about mob mentality or bullies in my slasher film. I'm sorry, that for me didn't work. And on top of that, you didn't develop it, so you double down on what didn't work for me. The next thing that didn't work for me was the pacing of this movie. Now, I don't mind a slow burn. However, it felt super duper slow and for no real reason, because of the fact is you're trying to inject all of these thought-provoking conversations between this kid, Laurie's granddaughter, and even Laurie herself and other people in the town based on what they've been through. And so those conversations are not that interesting. They don't really lead to anything in particular that is actually going to help us, the audience, be on board with any of these characters. Not to mention that most of the characters that we meet in the film, other than Laurie and her granddaughter, we don't even really like. This kid, he's cool for a moment until he becomes Mike Myers Jr. Now, another thing that didn't really work for me with this film was a lack of verisimilitude. Say it with me, people. Verisimilitude. What that basically means is a sense of realism. In this film, like I told you earlier, when this kid was getting bullied by them band cats, they threw his ass off of a bridge pretty high up, and he's cool, chilling.
Man, this is some bullshit!
Mike Myers takes him into the sewer, doesn't kill him. In fact, they now have a kinship.
Bullshit!
Also, for the past couple of years, Mike Myers been posted up in his sewer with the same ugly ass blue jumpsuit from the 70s, them old nasty Frankenstein combat boots.
Get him.
He ain't got no goddamn debit card.
Get him.
His pad looks like shit.
Get him.
He ain't got no toilet, no shower. He stank.
Get him.
This motherfucker's still wearing the same burnt William Shatner mask from the 60s.
Get him.
And maybe he's getting food from the shitty ass McDonald's down the street when they throw that food out in the end of the night in them dumpsters.
Oh, come on!
I have no idea. But all of these things put together don't make any logical sense. It doesn't seem realistic to me, and there's nothing that the movie does to make it seem realistic. So I just don't buy it. And that takes me out of the film. Now, last thing I'm going to give you that really took me out of the film and didn't work for me was forced tension. Like I said earlier, these band members are bullying this kid. But for what? For why? Yeah, they understand what had happened to him before because it's the town that he lives in. But why are you picking on him the way that you're picking on him? It seems really effing forced, right? There's conflict between Laurie and her granddaughter because of who she's dating, which is this kid that's Mike Myers' homie. Now, Laurie doesn't want her to date this kid. Lori doesn't know specifically that he's hanging out with Mike Myers or whatever. She just sees something in his eyes after a particular period of time that says, yo, this might not be the one for you. Given the fact that Lori has always saved and cared for her granddaughter, had her back number one from day one, and everything that she said about the quote unquote boogeyman Michael Myers came to be true, there's no reason that her granddaughter should look at her as if she's a crazy person and doesn't understand what she's talking about, hasn't lived enough life to understand maybe the character of a person. You feel me? That just doesn't add up. So I feel like the movie was trying to force tension between random characters in the film and force tension between our two main protagonists, being the granddaughter and Lori herself. But you don't need to force tension between them. It's a freaking slasher film, and you have a murderous killer, two, in fact, murderous killers running rampant. That's your tension. So I feel like the movie was just misplaced in what it wanted you to focus on or what it felt was important for us to see and experience. And that just kind of took me out the film. So in the end of the day, this movie did not work for me on a logic standpoint, a story standpoint, and just an overall entertainment standpoint. That's my opinion. Do I think it's worth the trip to the theater this Halloween? Hell nah. In fact, there's like an exorcism movie that's coming out pretty soon that looks super fire, way more entertaining. I can't remember the name of it right now, but you better believe I'm going to give y'all a review. So I do not suggest that you waste your money on this movie. Wait for it on streaming, if that, or just go back to the original in this brand new trilogy. You feel me? Hey, yo, I hope I gave you a little bit of insight, a little bit of knowledge into what this was, if it's for you or if it's not for you. If you liked everything I said, go check it out. Let me know in the comments below what you thought. Other than that, ya homie, I'm out.